A search and rescue mission is underway for a crew member of a U.S. fighter jet that was shot down over Iran. Sources telling CNN another crew member was rescued by American forces and is receiving medical treatment. Iranian state media has issued pleas for Iranian civilians to look for the missing crew member, and this is new video that appears to show Iranians doing just that. One local official has offered a $76,000 reward to anyone who finds the service member alive. We're joined now by Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee. That is just chilling to hear that is the plea being issued by the Iranian government. What is your reaction to that?
I mean, we kind of knew this way it might happen. I mean, this is the risk of going to war with a country like Iran. And it's important to remember, Brianna, that this happened a day after the president got on TV to the nation and said, among other bombastic claims, that they had completely eliminated Iranian anti-aircraft facilities. So a day later, 24 hours later, they shoot down an advanced U.S. fighter jet. This just shows how incredibly out of his league the president is. The commander-in-chief doesn't know what he's talking about. He's lying to the American public, and he's putting our troops at grave risk.
And Congress, of course, is on recess. You are all home, but are you getting briefed on this? Have you been briefed on this? Do you expect to be?
We expect to be briefed well after the fact, because that's what this administration does. They tell Congress well after the fact what's going on. They, juice up the briefs so that they sound like pep talks rather than actually doing the proper oversight that's required here, rather than having serious conversations about the way forward. And right now, this administration is totally lost because they don't know what to do next. They don't know how to get out of this mess. They do not know how to end this war. If there's one thing that came out of the president's speech the other night, besides the fact that he's senile and falling asleep, is that there's no plan. There's no plan whatsoever. Just a whole bunch of things about all the things they're going to destroy and whatnot, and then a plea with Iran to come to the negotiating table to reopen the strait and end the war.
I want to talk a little bit more about the capabilities of Iran, what this incident is demonstrating about that. This is what the president said on Wednesday night.
Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is in ruins. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left.
CNN had exclusive reporting last night that roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact. Thousands of one-way attack drones remain in Iran's arsenal. They're basically at about 50% with those, which is still considerable. I wonder, and considering that we know there has been another U.S. jet that was hit by Iran, it managed to make it to safety, unlike this one. But knowing that Iran does still have some capabilities, what are your concerns for how the American people are now understanding what is happening here?
Well, the problem is, because the president has no idea how to get out of this mess that he started, he might very well escalate further. And in a sense, the war is already escalating, because now they have successfully shot down a U.S. plane. They may have a U.S. hostage. I mean, I just wrote an op-ed about the challenges of that would be before us if they did take hostages, whether from ground troops or pilots. Well, now we're seeing that play out right now. So the danger is that we don't know where to go next. The president has no plan to end this war. And if he thinks he's going to get out of it by escalating, it's probably going to cost a lot more American lives, and it's going to be even harder to get back to the negotiating table. And at the end of the day, whether we've taken out half of their launchers or 3/4 of their launchers or 90%, what only matters in the long run is what they rebuild and what they do next. Unless we want to go to war with Iran every 3 or 4 years, then he's got to have a plan to bring this to a conclusion that's more than just a military action to take out some percentage of their launchers that they're just going to rebuild anyway.
Iran's missile capability could include launchers that are underground, including in tunnels and caves. They could be moving launchers Iran could to evade American strikes. Does that lend credence to the administration's assertion at the beginning of the war that what Iran is doing is actually building a conventional weapons shield to protect their nuclear ambitions?
Yeah, that's a legitimate theory, and I've always thought that it's a problem for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But, it's interesting that the president started by saying we need a deal. Basically the same deal that he tore up in his first term, the deal that Obama had secured and that his own administration certified Iran was following. That deal prevented Iran from ever building a nuclear weapon. And most importantly, it had intrusive inspections and electronic monitoring so we could see exactly what they were doing and respond if they violated the deal. We don't have any of that right now. So we don't even know the exact status of their nuclear weapons program. We know the president's lying about it because he told us last summer it was obliterated. And yet now in his speech just a couple nights ago, he's saying we have to bomb it further. We may even have to send troops in to extract the uranium. But the bottom line is that unless we have a diplomatic deal at the end of the day that prevents them from building a nuclear weapon and actually has inspections and controls to catch them if they start, then we're right back to where we were when this all began, except that we've lost an untold number of American lives, 13, maybe 14 so far, and billions and billions of dollars of American taxpayer money. I don't think that's what the American people want us to be spending money on right now.
Congressman Seth Moulton, we appreciate you being with us.
Good to see you, Brianna.